In the cold heart of the city, the Decepticons have opened a nightclub and are mind-controlling their patrons. Only two things can stop them: Autobots and breakdancers. Then, a big game hunter wants the head of Optimus Prime. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to Battle of the Network shows. This is Micatron.
And this is Rickbot.
And we are here on our Season 7 finale, and we're going to talk about the Transformers.
Yes, the Transformers. One of the bigger cartoons of our era. Certainly one of the bigger cartoons of the 80s. Something that'll be good to get to finally.
Definitely, and I think the final third of the triumvirate of the original toy-based cartoon block with He-Man and G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay.
They ruled the... I didn't quite say that as elegantly as I wanted to, but those to me seem like the top three.
For some reason, I wasn't thinking He-Man. I thought maybe you were going to mention My Little Pony, and I couldn't remember that episode.
No,
a little worried that I had blacked out or something, but
I don't know.
During the recording of that,
we might have to do that at some point. But or those three kind of set that ball rolling. Yes. And there are other things you could say. Well, Ninja Turtles was bigger, but that wasn't based on it. It was a comic book that became a toy and a cartoon. Mm-hmm. Where these were more corporate synergy going on. So, and of course, Star Wars toys were bigger for their time, but they didn't really have a cartoon until it was too late, and those cartoons were not good.
Yes.
So, Transformers, robots in disguise.
Yeah, were you a big Transformer collector back in the day? I was
not at all. I didn't have any Transformers. I was curious about Transformers. I think I borrowed one from a friend, and then my best friend's brother had some, and I would kind of pick them up and mess around with them.
I'm intrigued by this intellectual curiosity you had about Transformers. Was it the transformation? Was it the...
I think it was the robots. Uh-huh. And clearly, because the multimedia part of it launched much quicker than G.I. Joe, I think, in terms of there being a cartoon and the comic book, because they had already done it with G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe took a couple years before the cartoon and all of that. There were ways to see it and engage with it, and I had read some of the comics, and and they seemed cool, and I made that connection. Oh, it's the same people as G.I. Joe, so But then I would pick one up, and it just wasn't interesting to play with. The transforming, I had difficulties with the puzzle part of the transforming, I think, and then it took so long. It's now I'm exhausted from that. And the cars or whatever, the planes weren't interesting enough to play with on their own like that. At that age, I wasn't into cars.
Right.
I mean, a lot of little kids, play with their Matchbox cars or whatever, and that's pretty normal. But by then, it's it wasn't my thing. So I couldn't, and I didn't, because I think I've said before, on the G.I. Joe one, that I tended to play with my toys, make up my own characters with them, and I didn't see potential there.
Yeah.
But it was in the air, so I did watch the cartoon a decent amount.
Yeah, I would have been surprised if you didn't, just based on the fact that you did like G.I. Joe.
Yeah. And
I think many people would assume that there'd be a big crossover with those fans.
Right.
Because they were paired together a lot on TV. Like you said, they had similar backgrounds. But, I kind of the same. I dabbled in GoBots, I believe.
Uh-huh.
I had a few Transformers. I had Optimus Prime was really the main one I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think I may have wanted Megatron, but never got him. And I think I had, Shockwave. Shockwave's the cassette player.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
that's pretty much to me the coolest one.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, if he had actually played cassettes, then that would have been super duper cool. But I understand.
That's one advantage that Jim and the Holograms had. They had actual working toys that played. Yeah. Played music, I guess.
And maybe today, I don't know if I know they keep putting them out and making new ones and new versions of the old ones. Maybe they've done or could do a Shockwave that has some. It doesn't play tapes, but it works the same way as the old one, but plays You know, it has a little MP3 player or something built in.
You might lose something though. That you can't beat that visual of opening, the cassette hatch,
right,
and like having a little cassette.
Well, you could still have that in there.
Mm-hmm.
You could still have the toy part,
right?
The toyetic part of it, but it would be able to play music.
Right. Well, I'm sure if they have the umpteenth iteration of the Transformers, which actually they probably are now.
Oh yeah.
And I've never seen any of the movies.
I've seen the first one. It's terrible.
That was enough. Okay, yeah. I've never had any interest in seeing them. It seems like they're all like 3 hours long and get terrible reviews.
Right.
I don't have a big nostalgic love for the whole franchise anyway.
And you were only willing to see Michael Bay movies that have Nicolas Cage in them.
Yeah, that's a strict rule of mine that I've always followed.
or Space Madness.
Yeah, if it has Space Madness. Which, speaking of Space Madness, I think they might have had some Space Madness in my favorite Transformers thing as a kid was the Transformers movie.
Yes.
Which I do remember. I think my experience with the cartoon was probably similar to He-Man and G.I. Joe in that I really didn't watch it every day. And a lot of times after school when it was on, I'd rather it would be kind of an annoyance. Like if we were inside watching that, it'd be like, well, let's go out and, play football or something like that, or ride bikes or do something. So it wasn't really my preference to be watching Transformers. However, I do remember seeing the Transformers movie when that came out, and that was a game changer because...
Did you see it in the theater?
Not in the theater.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember how we saw it. I think maybe on a VHS or something, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Because I do remember, I think they had a TV premiere of it. But I seem to remember it must have been unedited because there was the mild profanity.
Yes.
Which everybody loved.
Right.
There was, death.
Galore.
Total violence in it. I mean, it was really
a
great
violence.
movie.
I actually ended up renting it last night on Amazon and watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Which
hold up?
This might be the third time I saw it. I think I saw it like on VHS back then, and then maybe 15 years ago or something on a whim had rented it probably on DVD at that point. And it's got rockin' music.
Yeah,
it is. In terms of just crazy, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
It really is astounding that because the movie was in between, I guess, the second and third seasons of the cartoon, and Hasbro wanted to get a whole new line of the toys out, and they just like get rid of the old people. So they like kill all the original characters.
Which is amazing.
I mean, they're robots, so it's like, but they're living. I don't, whatever they are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to even understand the possible biology of it.
Yeah, no, let's not.
And most importantly, they killed Optimus Prime, and it is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I find it mildly offensive that the opening credits are only like the name actors.
Oh, really?
And all the people who've been doing all this work on the show only get in credits.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer.
And one of the name actors is the Micro Machines FedEx guy.
Oh, the fast talker?
Yeah.
John Machetta? Or...
Yeah. Like he gets top billing. Not top billing.
He strolls in
yeah,
to appear in the movie.
There's a character who just is comic relief. And Lionel Stander also gets... Although his character is pretty important. Judd Nelson is the young upstart.
What a cast.
Our boy Leonard Nimoy.
Oh, wow. I forgot Leonard Nimoy was in it.
Yeah, when Megatron gets transformed into Galvatron.
Yes.
His voice changes from Frank Welker to Leonard Nimoy.
Ah, okay.
And then Orson Welles is the...
It's cool that it took us...
Oh, and Eric Idle.
I like that it took you like 5 or 6 names to get to Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Lionel Stander, the Micro Machines guy. That's appropriate for our podcast.
100% sure who Lionel Stander is, but I mean, I know the name, and I actually enjoyed his voice performance, but it just made me think of other people. Like he sounded a little bit like Dennis Farina or something, which would have been cool.
Yes.
Dennis Farina as a Transformer.
Yeah.
And in the movie, since we're talking about it now, there are a number of robots with facial hair. I mean, it's metallic facial hair, but
that's a good move.
Still, like Eric Idle's character has this almost like a kind of like a Fu Manchu mustache.
I like that. I like that. I just figured out Dennis Farina could have been like a cab.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see that. I think.
Like, I would like that this particular Autobot, the thing he just gets turned into a cab. Maybe we can explain that. I watched. Did you rewatch the miniseries?
I did. It was quite a while ago, but
yeah.
Yes, I do. I guess More Than Meets the Eye,
right,
is the miniseries that kicks off the animated series.
Yeah. So in that you learn why they look like cars on Earth. So I like the idea of him being that, and then sort of just like realizing he can make some money.
Yeah.
Just being a cab in town when they're not busy fighting.
Yeah,
the Decepticons.
It's not totally crazy idea because I've saw a handful of other episodes besides the ones we're going to talk about, and some of these Transformers, they do have ambitions beyond just crushing the opposition.
Yeah,
I mean the heart of the show is the Autobots versus Decepticons, endless struggle, but
right.
There's a lot of side hustles going on too.
Oh, good. Tow truck business.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean that Energon is not going to create itself.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did not have a big, strong attachment to Transformers, really in any form. But I enjoyed it, I think, probably on occasion when I saw it. But overall, I just wasn't... I really liked Optimus Prime and Megatron. One thing that I'm a little curious about is talking about the motivation to kill off a lot of the characters in the movie, and the way to clear the way for new characters. To me, that's totally crazy, and that's not how you would do it today. You would just leave the other ones and keep repackaging the old ones and bring out new characters. Yeah. And also, it seems like from what little, from what I've been exploring of the series, they're constantly introducing new characters.
Right.
Like, I was stunned to realize that they introduced, like, the Dinobots, the Insecticons, like, all the stuff was happening in the first season they were bringing these whole new toy lines.
So I, for research, I rewatched the Toys That Made Us about the Transformers.
The Netflix series. Excellent series, yes.
And so if you want a good 45 minutes of Transformers history, that's the way to go. I can also recommend, if you only want 8 or 9 minutes, the YouTube channel Toy Galaxy has a primer on that. The Netflix one is more fun because they interview people involved with it and stuff. Yeah. And someone says, that they started with 20 characters, and then the next year they had 120 more.
Wow.
And they need it. So the very quick version is that Hasbro went to a Japan toy fair, saw that they were like transforming robots were a big deal there. Mm-hmm. They made a deal with another company who had 2 lines of transforming robots. That became the basis of the Transformers. That line didn't have any storyline or anything. And some of them were vehicles, and some of them were like objects, like guns and cassette recorders and cameras and whatnot. And then they did what they had done with G.I. Joe. They went to Marvel Comics and said, make sense of this. Yeah. And this guy, after other people, including the great Denny O'Neil, kind of failed at coming up with an idea. A guy named Bob Budiansky got the Larry Hama job of fleshing out, naming the characters, fleshing them out, coming up with writing the file cards for them and everything. And Hasbro kept coming, more. We got more people, so he had to keep doing that.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, 140 characters, that's almost as many as St. Elsewhere had when we were talking about that. And I don't care how many, I'm just going to say right now before we really get into this, I don't care how many, if it's 20 or 120 or 140, I can't keep half of them straight.
No.
Maybe, is it just me, or is it me being older? Could I have done this when I was a kid? I don't know.
It's tough because they transform so much.
Yes.
It's like, wait, there's a red one. No, he's a car. I know there's a Casey Kasem one, and I know there's a this one and that. The voices, or multiple Casey Kasem ones.
There's an effort to give them distinctive voices.
Yes,
and distinctive looks. To be fair, they have some bright colors. There's effort to distinguish them visually, but still, it's a bunch of robots transforming. And
right.
And I'm not a car guy either. I never was back then. So
and like on the Decepticons, a lot of them are airplanes, and like. In that original line, there are like 3 they're different colors, but they're the same airplane. Yeah. They're all like F-15s.
Right.
So other than Starscream, who's, a major character, it's like, oh yeah, and there's the other one and then the other one. There's the purple one and the blue
right. One. And then they diluted that difference by introducing, was it the Aerobots or something? So then the Autobots,
some of them
have their, developed their, squadron of flying robots, which further erodes the distinction between everybody.
And then you got the triple changers.
Yes.
And some of them change, there's one that's like an airplane and a tank and a robot, and he's a bad guy. And a train and a space shuttle.
Right. And the Stunticons.
The Stunticons.
Which I don't even know what their deal is.
They
And
just do stunts?
one thing I've noticed that, like in season 2, you get a lot of these. There's a trend, it seems, towards creating like giant robots, like teams of robots teaming together to make a bigger robot.
The combiner robots,
which almost seems a little inefficient in a way, but
it's cool.
Yes, it is, and it gives you a great visual and a toy to sell, I guess.
Like my brother's friend definitely had the Constructicons, the original combiner one. So it's 5. I guess, construction vehicles, and then they become this giant one, Devastator. And, that's a cool idea.
There's some that look kind of lame, though. Like in the car, I forget which one it was, but there's one that he's assembled, and he's giant. He's gigantic, but it just looks like he has cars sticking out as shoulder pads or something like that. Like, it's not like a really smooth transformation. It looks a little clunky.
Not like Voltron, where it's...
Right. I mean, I would like a total transformation so that you don't see the individual parts. Like the whole, it would be greater than the sum of its parts.
Like
I don't like seeing the sum of its parts. Yeah.
Okay.
But that wasn't the aesthetic that Hasbro went with, I guess.
Or the Japanese people designing it.
Yes.
Yeah. So all that's fascinating, and the fact that I think of these 3 toys, this is the one that's really had the most staying power.
Yeah.
Both as a toy and just as a pop culture thing.
Yeah. Has it ever really gone away?
Apparently in the early 90s it went away for a couple of years and then came back as Beast Wars and then sort of, kept going, and then the movies certainly helped.
Yeah, it was kind of in an odd way, even though I don't really have any ownership of this series.
Yeah.
I'm kind of resentful that apparently the original cartoon is referred to as Generation 1.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, no, that should just be Transformers.
Right.
And then you can call the other ones Transformers Generation 2. But I would prefer it's just Transformers.
I think that might be retroactive.
Yeah.
I believe the Generation 2 was like an official name.
Right.
And therefore it just, makes it Generation 1 because it is.
I understand that, but I would like to announce now that I'm not going to participate in that naming convention, and I will not refer to it as Transformers Generation 1.
Okay.
I think it deserves the respect of not giving the extra little bit in its name. It can just be Transformers, period, and every other version of Transformers should have to distinguish itself.
How about, if you had to, Transformers Prime?
Transformers Prime?
Prime.
Well, that would depend for me. Is Optimus Prime or Rodimus Prime or anybody a main character in the other versions? Because that could cause some confusion.
Yeah, I think they're still around. I believe Optimus Prime's a gorilla in the Beast Wars.
Boy, I really don't know anything about Beast Wars.
I just what I've seen in those things, and it looked weird.
I seem to remember seeing toys
they're
all
like
over the place,
animals that turn into robots.
Okay.
But then, and there was like a 1990s era CG cartoon that looks just visually like the clips I've seen really unappealing.
Yeah, I think we should do Manimal before we ever do Beast Wars.
Well, luckily it's out of our time period. So
okay. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Manimal's still in there though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
So, for this episode, we're going to talk about 2 episodes that happen to be back-to-back in sequence.
Yes, we are. And if you would indulge me, I might be able to share some research I did to put the show in context. We did 2 episodes from 1985, correct?
Yes.
Season 2.
Yes.
And I was curious, when we do like a primetime show, we'll often talk about what it was competing against. Well, we seem to have pretty reliable air dates, November 13th and November 14th. So right in the heart of the beginning of this 85, 86 season. Well, I went into the BOTNS archives to our TV guide collection. I didn't find one for this week of 1985, but I found one from this season, this TV season, as it were.
Right.
And I did a little. I was curious about what was actually on that time of day. My recollection was Transformers was like a 4:00 show. Right after school, 4:30.
Right.
So, would you like to know what else was on in this particular week? And it was in a Virginia edition of TV Guide, actually.
Well, I assume
on. By the way,
on the competing channels,
focusing on children's TV. Like I kind of focused on like Nickelodeon, PBS, and kind of like the this 4:00 to 6:00 window, like this after school, before dinner, kind of like that sweet spot.
Okay.
So
we know G.I. Joe was in there in the mix somewhere, presumably.
Yes, and one thing I found odd was that, and at least in one situation, G.I. Joe was on against Transformers.
Oh.
Which you'd think that how would that happen? But I think maybe it's due to some
different people that.
Well, there's a DC station in here, and then some like Eastern Virginia, and maybe they weren't considered the same territory. But like I had read, like one of the reasons Transformers was so successful was that they made a deal, some kind of joint advertising thing where Transformers and G.I. Joe would advertise on each other's shows to skirt around like the already weakening FCC regulations a bit against advertising.
So like an episode of G.I. Joe, the commercials would include commercials for the Transformer toys.
Correct. And vice versa. So you'd have like, right off the bat, you'd have some success there. And that was a way to get around some of the regulations, which, I mean, we should mention part of the reason this show even exists is because like the FCC was totally relaxing any kind of regulation of children's programming. And some people still try to fight it. It seems odd to think that at one time you couldn't do a cartoon that was basically a toy commercial.
Right.
But that was out the window at this point.
Well, yeah. It was.
I mean, in some things
America.
like yes, some things like My Little Pony and Strawberry Shortcake, aimed at different audiences, but they were kind of paving the way. And you also had G.I. Joe, Transformers, and He-Man and everything, as you said. So So yes, we did have G.I. Joe in there on the DC station at Channel 20, which I think is now the CW affiliate.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the My TV 20.
It's the CW.
Okay, the CW.
Yeah.
It actually preceded Transformers with GoBots.
Oh.
So it was a GoBots Transformers hour, which, they were competing toy lines, competing cartoons.
I meant to look up. I'm sure there must have been crossover between the voice actors on those.
Yeah. Frank Welker must have done at least one or two GoBots. Right. I totally agree. I didn't look that either. We'll have to take a look. So now one independent channel that I thought was pretty interesting. They went kind of more old school. So they had Jetsons and Tom and Jerry.
Nice. But
then they had G.I. Joe at 5 and then Different Strokes. So, you go right into,
It's the G.I. Joe Different Strokes hour.
Yes. So the channel that Transformers was on would have Ghostbusters, the Channel 20 had Ghostbusters, Transformers, Different Strokes, and What's Happening, which is kind of interesting. Like, I don't remember Different Strokes and What's Happening being paired in my area, but in this area they were.
I don't remember. Oh, was this the Filmation Ghostbusters or the real Ghostbusters?
I'm sorry, did I say Ghostbusters?
Yes, you did.
I mean GoBots.
GoBots.
So it was GoBots, Transformers. Ghostbusters was nowhere around here.
Okay.
This is the figment of my imagination, Ghostbusters.
Yes. Because I remembered the real Ghostbusters at least being a Saturday cartoon.
Yes. Maybe I had in my mind the episode of Different Strokes where they cash in on the Ghostbusters craze. Where Arnold and Sam wear the Ghostbusters outfits. Let me get that out of my head. So in another channel, you'd had He-Man, G.I. Joe, One Day at a Time, and Alice. So again, kind of moving from cartoons and transitioning to sitcoms.
But not just sitcoms, but sitcoms aimed at women.
Yes.
Mostly, and sitcoms with a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched plenty of Alice at that age, and maybe even younger, but and some One Day at a Time, but I know that they weren't really targeting me.
Right. It's interesting. I remember Alice being on in this general time frame.
Yeah.
But it seems kind of an odd choice, but I guess it was juvenile enough to be paired with the cartoons.
I guess where I lived in Atlanta, the cartoons were usually relegated to the UHF channels. And like the VHF channels would have the sitcoms before the news.
Okay, yeah. Well,
and the UHF might have sitcoms too, but they definitely wouldn't. I can't imagine pairing those.
That's pretty much what we're looking at here is some of the independent channels as opposed to like the network affiliates, which now would be showing news all the time in this block.
Yes.
Since I mentioned it, Nickelodeon had You Can't Do That on Television at 4, Lassie at 4:30, Dennis the Menace at 5. So they had the
Dennis?
The Jay North black and white sitcom Dennis. And Turkey Television at 5:30. PBS had Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, 3-2-1 Contact. No surprise there. Yeah. And finally, there was another independent channel that had Transformers at 5:30, and leading into that, 3 other ones that we haven't covered on the show yet, but it will be familiar. Mask at 4, She-Ra at 4:30, Thundercats at 5, and then Transformers at 5:30. So there was a little variation there. But so these are the kind of shows that were in the mix. A lot of these toy-themed cartoons, a lot of sitcoms dealing or directed at different audiences, perhaps, and PBS with basically just educational quality programming.
Yeah, I'm curious about this TV guide. So it covered like essentially the entire state of Virginia.
I think it's the Eastern Virginia
So
region. So
DC, Richmond, and Norfolk.
something like that. Yeah.
That's still a wide area to cover the one.
Well,
TV guide.
actually, DC. I think this Channel 20 was the only DC station in there. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing that maybe one big cable system, like in the Richmond area or something, carried that, and that's why they put it in the listings. So that's kind of, to be fair, I think that might be kind of like a little bit of an outlier.
Okay.
But so that's what was airing when these 2 episodes we're going to talk about from season 2.
Yeah.
And a pretty long season 2 as well. I mean, this is
like your typical animation,
like 33 and 34th episodes of this season.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad I indulged you because that was fascinating. One could say that some of those blocks were transforming from kids' television to adult television.
Yes, seamlessly transforming. One could
seamlessly.
Certainly say that. One could also say that it was a Decepticon doing the programming for those channels and purposely trying to disrupt the audience flow in order to achieve some kind of nefarious means.
Yeah, achieve some unclear,
some ill-defined objective.
Right. Yeah. All right. We've got 2 episodes, so one we picked for a reason that frankly turned out to be disappointing.
It did, yes. I'm glad you said it because
luckily
I was a little crushed.
The rest of the episode came through, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But I also reached out to our friend Tim from 20th Century Popcast, who I knew from his podcast that he was a big Transformers guy, and he recommended a few episodes. All actually 2 of them. One was in the same block of like these 2 episodes and another one. But so we're going with one of those, the first, which is called Auto-Bop, and it wasn't a hard sell.
No.
A few of the details, and I was on board for sure. And then another episode called Prime Target.
Yeah, I think both of these are actually atypical episodes in their own way. Yeah. They're a little bizarre.
They are, and he told me like season 2. He's like, if you want whacked out, go with season 2.
Yeah. Well, we went with season 2.
Based on these, and we definitely didn't want to go with season 3 because that's post movie and no Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
I guess he comes back.
They had to bring him back apparently, and actually the impression I get, I'm not sure about this, was that they actually intended. It wasn't like something where it was a marketing thing where like, oh, we'll bring him back and sell like rebooted Optimus Prime toys. Like it seems like the prevailing belief is that they actually angered people. And it was an outcry that they had to bring him back. So, like the beginning of season 3, I think he's not actually there,
right?
Because he wasn't animated yet.
Yeah.
And then they had to like wait a while, and he comes back, but it wasn't at all like a calculated thing,
right?
But yeah, we didn't. It's funny because why would we want to watch an episode without Optimus Prime?
Yeah.
Yet we did.
We did. Yeah. And frankly, other than cameos, Megatron doesn't really have a lot to do either.
Yeah, these really, like, I talked about how the whole heart of the show is this Autobots versus Decepticons battle, and neither of these episodes really...
Well, the first one is technically... Yeah. But
it's there. You can tell it's the overlying theme, but it's not, like, central, and sort of like this cat and mouse game between the two isn't as much a prominent feature of these 2 episodes.
Yeah, and so very quickly for the uninitiated, or people like us who kind of forgot, Transformers... They come from a planet somewhere in space called Cybertron. 4 million years before the cartoon starts. Mm. They're Civil War. They're machines, so they need energy. I mean, people, we need food. They've used up most of the resources of Cybertron, and the Decepticons want to take over the planet because it's a cartoon, and that's what bad guys want to do. Yet again, they just want to do it.
Yeah,
power for power's sake, but also they do need. At least there's the practical part. Well, we do need energy to survive. Yeah. So the Autobots leave with a plan, I think, to find energy, and the Decepticons follow them. There's like a crash. They end up on Earth, buried under a volcano for 4 million years, and then they wake up, and then it's a race to essentially use up all of the Earth's energy resources in order to get home. Where certainly, I'm sure things are exactly as they left it.
Yeah, of course.
4 million years ago.
That's one of the things I totally forgot. I think it's maybe easy to forget the fact that this whole Transformers mythology is based on things happening 4 million years ago.
Right.
Because it doesn't really seem necessary.
No.
I mean, I'm not against it. It's kind of cool, but
Yeah.
They're already coming from a whole distant planet, so it's not like you have to explain,
Right.
why things are so different.
Yeah. They could have just fled and
Yeah.
oh, there's Earth. Let's.
It could have just been far away, but they had to make it long, long ago, far, far away. Right?
Yeah. So as they're waking up, the computer in their ship, I guess the Decepticons are somehow on their ship. I forgot already how they got there, but they attacked them and they were on their ship when it crashed, or some of them. But the computer scans the Earth for life forms, I guess, and then reshapes their vehicle mode to match current standards and rather than Cybertron standards. So Optimus Prime is a truck, Bumblebee is a Volkswagen Bug, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess based on, I don't know, color scheme and personality.
Yeah.
Well, this guy is very into military stuff. Let's make him an army Jeep.
Yeah.
And the computer is voiced by Casey Kasem, so pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's nice to have him around.
You know what I'm sure you might be able to guess my other favorite recognizable voice.
Jazz?
Yes.
Scatman Crothers.
Scatman Crothers.
Yep.
As a robot.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah. And that's about it. And then they're fighting over resources. And I guess after that, because the Autobots win and kind of save Earth, and Earth adopts them, but there's a lot of back and forth between Cybertron and Earth and whatnot. And I guess it's closer than we think. And the movie reveals that there are lots of planets out there with these sentient, organic robot things.
Wow.
Sharkticons.
Well, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's a big universe.
It is.
And there's a lot of cosmic themes.
Yes.
In Transformers. But if you ever thought to yourself, I would love Transformers, but what I really want to see is street-level Transformers action, then Auto-Bop is the episode for you,
It
I
is,
think.
yes. And, of course, one of my favorite 80s storylines. I've been trying to get on the show, and we didn't ever quite get it, but we finally did. Which is villains using rock music to mind control people.
Yes. It's in there. And in order to...
build a building.
Okay, yeah. Those fiends.
I don't know why they need to build a building.
I thought maybe... Here's one thing maybe we can get to it, but I was guessing maybe that they were trying to build a building so that they could... I thought maybe they were trying to build something so they'd have a better vantage point to do more hypnosis over everybody. Like some kind of tower. It doesn't really look like that.
No, it just looks like an office building.
Yeah.
maybe Megatron finally wants to just settle down.
And
give everyone a desk job. Like he knew this movie idea was coming.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, everybody can die, or we could just retire and sell insurance.
Yeah. And
but wouldn't you buy insurance from a large robot?
Depends if you offered a good deal. I mean, I'm not so sure Megatron's the best salesman in the world, though. He doesn't seem to have quite the personality for it.
No, I think he might. Well, he might intimidate you.
Yes, he might have ways of persuading you, but not necessarily the slickest of salesmen. I would guess.
Or maybe they were going to use it. They were going to sell it to the government, and then transform into furniture in order to spy on them.
Yeah, that would be a brilliant scheme.
Yeah, it might be a little boring for these airplanes and things to suddenly be a desk, but in the long run.
Well, Megatron wasn't exactly running a democracy, so they would have had to put up with it.
That's right.
I imagine you're right, though. A lot of them would have gotten pretty restless, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe they had some other grand designs that we don't know about, and if that's the case, then I kind of regret the fact that their scheme was foiled, because now I'm kind of curious where they were going with that. But and they weren't building the building themselves.
No. I wonder if Megatron got this idea by watching TV.
Yeah.
Like watching a show where there was hypnosis.
Yeah. Like one of the ones we could have been talking about.
Right. Yeah. Like, I want to build a building. I have these robots who look like construction vehicles.
Yeah.
And can turn into a giant robot.
And and he was also watching Soap with Burt Campbell, the construction and 8 is Enough with David Bradford.
Right.
And he decided, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to have humans do the work for us.
Yeah. So they opened Club Dancetron and used the sound wave, manipulated the sound waves of their pretty cool sound system to hypnotize people into building this skyscraper for them and committing random acts of violence.
Yeah. While you're at it, why not?
Yeah. Right. But how we get into this story is maybe unexpected for Transformers also.
Expected for 1985, but
yes,
unexpected for Transformers.
Right. So we see a line of very 80s looking people waiting to get into Club Dancetron. And then these three, street kids show up, and they don't need a dumb club because they can just, put down some cardboard and break dance.
Yeah.
We later learn they're called the Bop Crew. And I guess this the leader of them, Raul, has appeared in other episodes.
Yeah, I saw his name show up in a summary or two, but I wasn't familiar with this character, but
no,
he's kind of a thing, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
So the Bop Crew starts doing a little street entertainment.
Yeah, and then this again very 80s cartoon / comic book sort of guy, leather vest and mohawk. And...
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The biggest upset in this whole episode is that he does not say "oi" one time. I kept expecting it to happen.
Right. And he pulls the cardboard out from under them.
Literally.
Yes.
Which is something I've always wanted to see somebody do to a breakdancer. So right away for me, that's kind of a babyface move at the beginning of this episode, but he definitely does it with malice.
Yeah. And then a whole squad of these 80s looking dudes show up behind him to chase the Bop Crew off. And one of them calls him a turkey.
Yeah.
Which is, this thing is scoring points all over the place.
Yeah.
and somebody says it's time to pull a Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Let's beat it.
They go through 2 minutes where they cram in 5 or 6 different 80s references.
Right.
Helpfully dating the episode for us. Or I should say not dating it, but marking it in time.
Yes. Yeah, Raul mentions knowing the Autobots, and he wishes their boombox were Blaster, and the other guys don't believe him, and one of them's like, yeah, the Autobots like I know Prince. And then they ride a dumpster. That was pretty cool. They hang onto it and roll down the street.
Yeah.
But Blaster and Trax, who are both Autobots, show up and rescue them. So Blaster is the Autobot equivalent of Soundwave.
Mm-hmm.
But he's Soundwave talks like a robot. He's the only one who talks like a robot.
Yeah.
And or like a Cylon if you know your Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Blaster talks like a cool dude.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trax is a car, some sort of a Corvette or Camaro or something. And he talks like a frat guy.
Yeah.
I don't know why he talks like that. He's very vain.
Yeah. He's got an interesting personality.
Yeah.
I'm not quite able to get a handle on him because I saw another episode with him, and but I guess he's one of the main Autobots at this point.
I guess so. Yeah.
He seems to keep popping up.
Over.
So, yeah. He must have been popular with someone.
Yeah. Apparently, both of these guys like Earth a little bit more than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just. He's definitely also a good observer of sort of the weird things going on, and he puts a lot of the pieces together.
Yeah.
This mystery, but just that weird frat guy might not be the right, upper class.
Right, almost
vanity
preppy or something.
Yes, like a preppy. Oh.
And he does win me over by saying, "What the deuce?"
Yes.
Seeing a giant robot, exclaim, "What the deuce?" That was a highlight of the episode for me.
Seeing a cartoon character, period.
Yeah.
Who's not like Beavis and Butthead or something.
Right.
Say that is, yeah. And right before that, Blaster is like, "You are seriously out of your league, brother."
Yeah.
Much like Jazz, he's, as I saw somewhere referring to him as being coded as black.
Mm-hmm.
And the actor is a black actor. Did Black Vulcan and one of the Super Globetrotters and many voices. So, that does seem kind of baked into it. And he's a boombox.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Soundwave, he's just a micro cassette recorder.
Right.
Definitely not as hip.
Certainly not. There's a natural rivalry between those two, of course.
Yes. Which is good, because we get a showdown later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what the deuce? and there's one guy in a suit, and I did notice that, although, later there are other people who weirdly dressed, and I didn't really pick up on it because everybody's weirdly dressed, because it's the 80s. But and these guys, this whole gang, they like have laser pistols, and the Autobots are never question that part of it.
Well, the 1980s in New York City was a kind of a rough time, you know. Yeah, people were forced to arm themselves in order to deal with rampant crime on the
right
on the subway and whatnot. So maybe that wasn't all that surprising.
I guess I wonder, did the Decepticons arm them with the laser pistols, or did one of their side hustles was selling laser pistols?
Selling art, yeah.
And of course, given that they own a nightclub in the 80s, did they have another side hustle?
Would not be surprised at all. That's not something we see here, but we definitely would not be surprised.
What if they had, shown some backroom scene where a Decepticon was snorting something? Not like cocaine, like some sort of like
a lubricant or something? Or?
Yes, yeah, right. Like graphite.
Yeah, graphite.
Oh, that's the stuff.
Well, I don't know if they would have gotten away with that. Maybe a little too on the nose, if you will.
Yes.
But you can't help but think, they seem to be creating, and there's some kind of parallels to like a Studio 54.
Yeah.
Because and there's a storyline reason for it, but Trax is commenting on people that quote unquote don't fit in. So you see like an old lady coming in, and and that was one of the big things about Studio 54 was like, oh, people of all kinds were coming in. I mean, it was like a hit place.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was some kind of diversity to it, and you could see anybody there.
Interesting. So that wasn't a place where you had to look a certain way to get in.
Well, I was never there.
Yeah.
So I can't speak from firsthand experience, but I thought part of the appeal of it was that well, I guess there was some, they cultivated some exclusivity, but it didn't seem to me like they narrowed it down and excluded people by who they were. Right. So, I don't know. But I seem to remember that was part of the appeal of it was that you could, you'd see housewives there. That was kind of like the cliche would be going to partying with everybody else.
Yeah. Mick Jagger was never more excited than when he saw a housewife at Club Dancetron. Well, there's one. But this club, in a way, because Raul also says, you can't get in there, Yeah. But then, there's a woman in like a bathrobe and curlers.
Right.
So clearly they are letting people in.
Well, which, much to Starscream's chagrin.
Yes.
As we find out in a little bit, that he does have some kind of policy designed to keep people out, but it's not working very well.
Yeah. Because the two Autobots just waltz right in.
Yeah.
Which they think, because they're like celebrities in a way. And Trax, let us in.
Yeah. And he's right.
Yeah. But that is when we learn.
So I gave away the reveal. But
So Starscream and Soundwave are running this place. Mm-hmm. And I think it's perfect. So, Soundwave, it makes sense. Starscream is sort of a second banana. I don't know if he actually is a second. He just thinks he's a second banana. He wants to be Megatron.
Yeah, I've got to ask you this, because this is one thing Lori and I are constantly puzzling over whenever we're watching these.
Yeah.
Why does Megatron keep Starscream around? Starscream is openly ambitious, actively insulting Megatron and demeaning his leadership.
Yeah.
Megatron seems to have a quick temper with most of his underlings, but for some reason he keeps Starscream around even though he's pretty incompetent. Maybe it's to like keep your enemies close, keep your friends close, enemies closer, or something like that. But
I think it's maybe every now and then he comes up with something good. Maybe it's to contrast. Maybe it's like Supreme Leader Snoke in The Last Jedi about General Hux, that he's keeping a cur like that around for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I know he's super annoying.
Yeah.
His voice, the same voice as Cobra Commander. And in the movie, to be fair, Galvatron totally kills him.
Oh, well, it was long overdue.
He has just enough time to become the new ruler when they think Megatron is dead.
Yeah.
And he has like this ceremony and gets crowned, and then Galvatron shows up and just vaporizes him.
Well, it does seem like, especially like in the earlier episodes, that it's just constant bickering. And I kind of, I think in the miniseries, I assumed, well, maybe that would go somewhere and they would address that, but it doesn't look like they do. It just like, like Megatron just keeps him around, even though...
And he's just like, one day I'm going to take over.
Yeah. He's not even like secretive about it.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy that. We don't see a lot of it in these episodes, but the dynamic between those two is very entertaining, I gotta say.
Yeah. I think, I mean, from a creative standpoint, it seems like there's a long tradition in cartoons, especially of making sure to have some comic relief in the villains.
Yeah.
And it often involves relationships like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a way to soften it for kids or soften it for kids' parents.
Yeah.
I don't think kids need that.
Right.
But
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. So and as we said, they're using this sound system to manipulate people to build a building.
Yes.
There was I liked that there was a guy a brief appearance by a guy voiced by Casey Kasem who I wrote down that he looked kind of like Adam Ant.
Yeah.
Although his hair changed to white
yeah.
after the first shot.
I wasn't entirely sure it was the same guy, but I guess he was wearing the same.
Yeah.
Was he wearing like a relax shirt? Or
Yes.
Something? Yeah. Okay. A shirt that said "relax" on it. Yeah. That buzzword of the mid '80s.
All right. But he also, we see some of these other people. There's like a guy in a tux, or I think, doesn't Trax refer to him later as a guy from the cover of GQ?
Yeah. Yeah. And another like contemporary, like real world reference that kind of was amused me.
And like Starscream and Soundwave, I guess they talk to the Mohawk guy, and they want to take care of the Bop crew, and they apparently know that they're on this elevated train, and the driver they trigger his hypnosis, and he accelerates the train and then to a ridiculous speed, and then destroys the controls. And, it's not a good scene. I did notice because I happened to pause to write down something, and they're passing by a building in the background with a sign on it that says "Lover's Room." I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure I want to know what that is.
Is that another Decepticon business they have going?
Right. That's that was on an episode of The Deuce where the Decepticons were running.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that was mentioned. That's a good catch. I'm not sure I want to know the details on that.
No. But Blaster and Trax save the day. Then they go back to the club, Trax and Raoul go back to the club, or on their way back to the club, and they see the building, and then they get attacked by a bunch of people who are working on the building, and like a guy shooting rivets at them, and it's like 1 a.m. Meanwhile, a guy I described as Disco Stew gives the other two members of the Bop crew, Pop Lock and Rocksteady, passes to get into Dancetron. So they go and they get hypnotized. And Blaster has gone back to headquarters or somewhere to talk to the computer Teletran 1, who suggests that these frequencies are hypnotizing people. So then Trax and Raoul go to the club, and Trax makes Raoul stay outside because he knows something's wrong in there.
Yeah, and he's right.
Yeah. And he goes in, and then he gets attacked by all these.
Yeah, there's like this big shootout inside the club, actually.
Yeah. And Blaster shows up, and he knows about the thing, the sound waves, so he doesn't want Raoul to go in there, and he calls him Youngblood, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But Raoul does go in, but he puts tissues in his ears, so he should be safe.
Yeah, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, he's been to enough concerts.
Yeah.
He knows the drill. And Trax is like tied, chained. I'm not sure what's holding him, but he's like strung up against the sound system. It's shaking him apart.
Yeah, it's like I assumed there would be some kind of technological invention or something restraining him, but actually it looks later like it's just old school, like heavy chains and padlocks.
Yeah.
It just looked a little bizarre.
But it's, it looked bizarre, and it's a little intense, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not quite in a crucifixion pose, but it's
close.
That
it's
air.
Suggestive of it, yeah.
Yes. And there's like a fight between Blaster and Starscream, and then Poplock and Rocksteady attack Raoul and pull out the tissues, and he's almost hypnotized, but then like he splashes water on his face, and he realizes the solution, which is that water is the solution. What did you think of that?
Well, I guess music is not the doctor, music is the disease, but water is the cure. Water is the antidote.
Yes.
Music is the doctor.
Wait.
brainwaves is the disease.
Yes.
Water is the solution.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll buy that.
Right. Because, I mean, technically it's not the music causing it. It's the altered ultrasound frequencies.
Yes, and apparently water negates the effects of these ultrasound frequencies.
Yeah. It's, sure.
Why not?
I mean, if a cube can stop a pyramid,
yeah,
why can't water?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to your question, but I'll bet 321 Contact would be able to tell us the answer to this.
Well, yeah, I want to see that episode.
Maybe they already covered this. The effects of water on Ginny Ortiz. Our friend Ginny Ortiz could tell us about water on rare frequencies.
Yeah. But I guess he sets off the sprinklers, right? Raul?
I think he does, yes.
Somebody does.
And, yeah.
And everybody wakes up. And
it's pretty instantaneous once you get wet. Apparently the sweat of ingesting foreign substances and dancing at high speeds doesn't generate enough moisture.
Right.
But getting splashed with water, does.
Yeah. And Starscream flees, of course, because that's what he does. And Trax and the gang, they follow him. Meanwhile, we have the Blaster and Soundwave showdown, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and by the way, I kind of liked going back to Trax being captured. I like that Roll just basically picked like the lock too. It was kind of an anticlimactic way to free him. He was bound in this big robot, but he just like pulled something out of his pocket. Like he happened to have a lockpick. Well, as the street gang might be expected to, just pops open the lock and.
So, but why? Once he unhypnotized people, shouldn't Poplock have been the one to do that?
I don't get. You think that's his role?
Yeah.
I guess they call him Poplock because of his dance moves, not because of his street abilities. But there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah. So two things. One, Autobots in general can kind of fly when they're in robot form. I mean, I think they got to address in the miniseries. They don't fly as fast.
Yeah.
So it's not that useful in terms of fighting Decepticons, which I'm glad they addressed that because I was like, what? They can fly. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Now, Trax actually can fly in his car form. He has some fins that come out and he can be like a flying car, which is pretty cool. So they're chasing Starscream, but also, honestly, this is the one part that, other than what they're doing with the building, that was like way out of left field. I thought.
This is the one part that's way out of left field.
Way out of left field. I mean,
all right, I
given the context of the kind of show we're doing,
yes,
and because frankly, compared to Spider-Woman, this is an elegant show.
It is, yes. There's a lot of attention to detail in this show compared to Spider-Man.
And it's a pretty clear story, and but he somehow seeds the clouds to create a thunderstorm.
Yes. That was very hastily done, I might add, too.
Like, is he just carrying around whatever it is you used to see, salt or whatever it is?
It's kind of surprising, too, because normally in a kid's cartoon, there would be a scene setting that up, and with them explaining, like, what they have to do, and, like, somebody having a eureka moment, and, like, saying, so if water affects him, then how do we get what? Well, you could make it rain. Make it rain? How are you going to do that? Yeah. Just watch me. But they don't really even do that.
No, he just kind of says, I'm seeding. I was like I almost missed it.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, but that unhypnotizes the rest of the people who are out there building the building.
Yeah, everybody on the construction site.
Yeah. And then, like, he leads Starscream on a chase through, like, the unbuilt building, and Starscream kind of is not as agile as him and gets damaged and flies away. And then Blaster, he beats Soundwave by putting the speakers from the sound system on his fists.
Yeah.
And blasting him. And then he uses the same thing to destroy this building. Now, I mean, I guess I understand that too, but I understand how it works, certainly. It is a building. I mean, maybe the city could have used that building.
Yeah.
Maybe the Autobots could have bought it, turned it into an office for them.
Yeah, or some kind of high-rise apartment.
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
Maybe like a affordable housing.
Yeah.
Where guys like the Bop crew could live.
Well,
instead of scrambling on the street for breakdancing money.
I think we have to admit that the Autobots just don't have the vision that the Decepticons do. They're a little bit more narrowly focused.
I guess so. In the movie, they have Autobot City. I don't know if that is in the cartoon at all, but The movie's set in 2005. The distant future of 2005.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a jump ahead. I don't know enough about my Transformers continuity. But Autobot City is outside. It's its own place. It is a transforming city.
The city transforms?
Yes. Yeah. Into like a battle station. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, New York in the 1980s was in the beginning of the process of transforming. Not quite in the same way, but...
I'm glad it makes sense. I mean, they don't say it's New York, but it seems like it's New York.
Yeah, parts of it, you might question maybe parts of it, but it's got to be New York.
It's dumpy. No, it's run down, and it's just got that look. They did a good job with that.
Yeah,
like that sort of urban decay, but still having a cool club and punks and people with bandanas and pirates shirts and
yes. But it just seems like to me like despite their interest in the street level activities and kind of doing good, Trax and Blaster really just didn't have any interest in establishing something for the community and being community organizers. They just wanted to get rid of the Decepticons and then maybe go back to their lives.
Because they totally destroyed the club too.
Yeah.
So that's 2 bits of real estate. I mean, hopefully somebody else can invest in that. Maybe a solid citizen like Eric Raymond. And see the benefits.
Yes, a guy with connections in the music industry. Mm-hmm. He could build that up bigger and better than before, perhaps.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
And, no shenanigans there.
Yeah.
Just a clean, good place for people to go. Maybe it'd be like they would have like an open mic kind of night for breakdancing.
Yeah, that would work. And I'll bet Eric Raymond could get it done. But, I wonder if maybe the Decepticons, now that I think about it, maybe because of the Decepticons, even they had troubles getting things built without, greasing palms and
maybe that's the whole thing.
Working with the right kind of people. So this was like a big way to get around the unions and, other forces that might be sticking their nose in the business.
This makes total sense. They were trying for months to build this building, and Megatron got fed up.
Yeah,
every time
dealing with all these different organizations, and
he woke up once. There was a robot head in his in his bed. I don't know if they sleep. Do they sleep? I'm not. I was going to get into the whole Megatron shrinking and
right.
Let's not.
Yeah.
It's
we're really going to have troubles with that.
Forget it, Jake.
Understanding that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Transformers. Yeah, I very much enjoyed this episode.
And
far more that miniseries I found kind of boring.
Yeah, it was a little drawn out. They could have tightened that up a little bit. I did like the end of this too, where in order to raise money to get a new boombox, they recruit Blaster to essentially be their boombox while they perform again.
Right. I don't know why he was so put out by it though.
Yeah, it's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
And Trax is sitting there like kind of kneeled over, like snapping his fingers.
Yeah. That I would say that's maybe the only criticism is that neither of them did any breakdancing. Oh,
yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought of that, but I'm a little dejected now that you.
Like I thought that's where I was going when Raul was like, "You can do one thing for us," and like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
Like they were going to be breakdancing.
Yeah. That would have actually been a better ending. Now that I think about it.
But this one it works.
It's good. It doesn't seem it doesn't seem as quite as much an attack on Blaster's dignity to just be playing the music.
Right.
So his reaction, like you say, is a little bit much, but
yeah. Maybe he hates being a boombox.
Yeah.
Or a ghetto blaster.
Yeah.
So and just wants to be a robot. Like he's not that into transforming.
Could be, but he does seem to be into sound and like he makes some comments on the various sound systems and
maybe he's more into like 70s soul.
Yeah.
Quiet Storm.
Yeah,
that's his deal.
He wants a good turntable setup, and maybe some nice high-end speakers and maybe he feels the music is poorly served in an outdoor setting like that with no control over the acoustics and anything, and he'd prefer like a nice controlled studio setting where he could develop it himself. And
Yeah, I think that might be.
I would like to get Blaster involved in the his thoughts on the loudness wars and see his thoughts on dynamic range.
Oh, I would too.
That could have been the big showdown with him and.
You know what? That could be a Decepticon plot too.
Yeah.
Soundwave came up with that one.
It's been slowly killing the music industry for decades.
Yes. More compression.
The two of them could have just gone back and forth arguing about it instead of blasting each other.
It's warmer. Your ears can take it.
Yes, Auto-Bop, entertaining episode. Certainly not one of the most representative of the series, but quite entertaining.
Yeah. Yes, maybe not a cosmic sci-fi battle, but...
and quintessentially 80s in its own way.
You know, if you're going to stick the Transformers on Earth, it's going to affect all sorts of parts of life there. So
I would think so. Fortunately, it didn't affect it too much, though, because we've established that Michael Jackson exists, Prince exists in this world.
Yes.
GQ magazine exists.
Right.
So it's still grounded. It's still our recognizable reality.
Yeah.
Which is a relief.
So this next episode, Prime Target, we selected because not too long ago, for reasons I don't remember, I learned on the internet that Hector Ramirez, star of our G.I. Joe episode, 20 Questions.
Well said, yes.
Also appeared on Transformers, Gem. This was after we had done the Gem episode. It might have changed everything if we had learned this. And this other thing, in Humanoids. And apparently, I think has appeared in some of the IDW comics of G.I. Joe. So it seemed very exciting.
Yeah, we had to check out Hector Ramirez on Transformers.
And I guess he appears. They never name him.
No, which is disappointing.
Everything I see now, I'm looking into, that Buzz Dixon, who co-wrote this episode and wrote the 20 Questions, said in an interview that he used him in a script. And there's a news guy with a mustache, so that must be him. So maybe it's him, maybe it's not.
Well, I'm not so sure that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed by that.
Yeah.
I mean, Ed Bradley had facial hair. He was a newsman.
Right.
He's not Hector Ramirez.
This is true.
I'm not sure that having a mustache is sufficient in this case. And if it is indeed Hector Ramirez, something's happened to Hector Ramirez.
Yes.
He's either been neutered by his employer.
Uh-huh.
I think some of the essential Hector Ramirez, the savoir faire he had, seems to have been taken out of him. Or perhaps he's done it himself in order to go more legit, shall we say, to be an anchor instead of a field reporter.
Right. Yes. He's just reading the news. He's not offering opinions.
Yeah.
Not asking tough questions. Not shoving microphones in people's faces. Also seems to have toned down some of his Latino culture.
Yes.
Or all of it.
Right.
His mustache, well, it's a good mustache, but it's not, again, it doesn't have quite the flair.
Not quite the same. There's no hint of the swashbuckling Hector Ramirez that we love so much in 20 Questions.
I wonder if that laughing fit at the end of that really disrupted his life.
Maybe he it affected him, or he couldn't live it down, or...
Yeah, maybe both.
Yeah.
He got some sort of trauma from...
Yeah, you could argue, though. I mean, I'm not sure if he's a national newsman or a local news anchor. I guess it seems like maybe he's a national news anchor.
It seems national because he's breaking in, and they're talking about an international incident. So,
in which case, he fell up, I guess.
One could say, yeah.
So maybe he's happier. He's probably making a lot more money in this position.
Yeah, probably, and it's less travel.
Yeah, stable hours.
Yeah, unless he has to. A lot of the anchors are always at least credited as the editor-in-chief of the nightly news, so...
Yeah.
But we don't know if it's a nightly. He could just be the guy who does the news break-ins.
Right. Which, a lot of times they wouldn't necessarily have Peter Jennings do that.
Right.
If he wasn't at the news desk at the time.
Yeah. And
maybe Hector Ramirez had some deal where he would be an anchor, but he'd also, insisted on going out in the field and doing stories to stay in touch with his roots. But I think I'm adding that a little bit. This Hector Ramirez, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's interested in me. He seems more like, I hate to say it, we're talking about Transformers, he seems more like a robot to me. This is not the standout individual and idiosyncratic journalist we saw in 20 Questions. It may be Hector Ramirez, but it's not the same reporter.
Should we perhaps add this to our list of possible Decepticon plots?
I think it's worth investigating.
Okay.
Worth investigating.
If only we had an investigative journalist who could go out and investigate it.
I thought we did at one point, but...
I am in fact a robot.
What better way to infiltrate the hearts and minds of America and Earth than by somehow compromising our most beloved newsmen and women?
So this episode does not start in the newsroom, though. It starts, I'm going to say, in the Arctic.
Yeah.
And a woman, Russian Soviet fighter pilot, is flying a jet over the Arctic. She mentions the October Guard, which is a little G.I. Joe Easter egg. The October Guard is the Russian kind of equivalent to G.I. Joe.
Cool.
So that's, another connection to that world, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees a submarine under the ice, a silhouette of a submarine. And then the submarine shoots like a big chain out and grabs her plane out of the sky and pulls it in. She ejects, but that, disappears, and who knows what's going on.
A remarkable capture, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Matter of fact, I would go so far as to say the only entity capable of pulling something like that off would have to be a government with the resources, like a huge country with the resources to devise a plan like that.
Or some evil transforming robots.
Yes.
Yes. So then we cut to a castle in an undisclosed location, and we meet a couple British gentlemen. One appears to be a very old butler, and the other is Lord Chumley. And he's got a lot of trophies, like, your animal trophies and your tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
And then his latest capture, which is a Russian jet hanging on his wall like a painting.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently a big game hunter could do this.
Yeah.
With, I guess, endless resources.
Well, that's... He's got to have something. He's got a two-man operation going. And...
Yes. A two-man operation. I mean, the butler is so old that when he pours tea, it doesn't go in the cup.
Mm.
He's also... He's old enough to remember the Boer War.
Yeah.
Which, frankly, I don't remember when that was, but I should know when that was. I remember when discussing that in history class, it went on along.
Did the Boer War have something to do with Gore Vidal and Dick Cavett?
Yeah, that's when Gore Vidal and Norman Mailer.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Oh, there are two Boer Wars. Well, the second Boer War was from 1899 to 1902. So this guy is like
80 some years before this episode.
He's very old. And I don't know if Lord Chumley remembers it, but the butler apparently is like roughly 105
at least
estimated.
He's even better than Alfred Pennyworth.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got all these abilities and is apparently ageless.
Yes. But Lord Chumley is pretty awesome. He's got a safari outfit and an ascot.
Mm-hmm.
And a giant mustache, and he talks exactly like
what ho?
And he's a little portly.
Mm-hmm.
Butler's old and has kind of a old man mullet, and it's good. He's good too,
right?
But Lord Chumley, there's only one other thing he wants: the head of Optimus Prime.
Yeah, that's his big prize now, his big goal.
And to remind himself of that, he has a plaque on the wall. This is Optimus Prime on the bottom, and in the middle of it, where the head might go, it says "Mount Head here."
Right.
And that made me wonder: does he buy his plaques in bulk? I mean, you think he would know where to put the head, but
yeah, I'm not sure who that instruction's for.
Yeah.
But
maybe it's for Dinsmore, the butler.
Yeah. Dinsmore might not be as reliable as we think he is.
Yes, he's. At one time, he mounted a head.
Yeah,
below the plaque.
He totally botched it.
Yeah,
he had an empty plaque and a head right below it.
Yeah, but Trax is back, and Bumblebee, the famous Bumblebee, they're out on a supply run. We get a news report from this maybe Hector Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
Just that this thing has caused an international incident.
Yeah, there's definitely rising tensions.
Yes, the Soviets blame the U.S., of course. It's a Cold War, and the U.S. is denying it. And Bumblebee and Trax see two Decepticons in an alley and go to investigate, and it turns out they're holograms, and they get captured by Lord Chumley.
Yes.
Yes.
And you mean Lord Chumley himself, not a team of people hired by Lord Chumley. It's Lord Chumley.
And Dinsmore.
Yes.
Yep. Again.
Yeah.
I mean, what big game hunter would leave the work to someone else?
Yeah, he needs the thrill of the capture himself.
Exactly. There's no delegation here. And back at Autobot headquarters, we see the Autobots watching a soap opera called As the Kitchen Sinks.
Yes.
That's nice. And get some more Hector Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
And
interrupting the show to their chagrin. It irritates all of them.
Yes. So these include Optimus Prime. I don't think he was watching the soap opera. I think he came in. He's like, "Oh, is that the news?"
Yeah, right.
Jazz, Blaster again, Grapple, who's like a hook. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think Beachcomber might be the other one.
Yeah.
That's what I read. I think he's like a little dune buggy or something. I don't know. Like we said, it's hard to keep them straight. And they realize that Bumblebee and Trax are missing, and so they all go out to search for them. And then it becomes a series of them getting captured.
Yeah.
He seems to know exactly where they're going to go.
Right. A series of outrageous captures.
He knew which Autobots would be searching.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. So Jazz thinks, because, of course, Trax, as we've established, is kind of vain, that he's probably gone to a car wash.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going around to all the car washes, and he's exhausted it, and then, like, a new car wash just showed up. And as he's pulling in there, he gets, the machines capture him. And Lord Chumley's sort of standing on top of it.
Do you think Chumley used mass hypnosis to have people build that car wash so quickly?
Yeah, he might have.
Maybe he must have had some kind of construction secret.
Yeah. Because, it's only been, I don't know, an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just like, hey, how'd that get there?
It's just in his kit of hunting objects,
Yeah.
Makeshift car wash.
Yeah. He may have acquired it on one of his hunts, and just tucked it away, in the hopes that it might come in handy someday.
Maybe like Megatron, he has some sort of mass displacement device. So he can carry that, or like Ant-Man, he can carry a car wash around in his pocket.
Yeah.
and just leave it there.
Okay.
There's like a toll bridge or something, and Beachcomber stops to put money in, and then the claws and things come out and capture him.
Yeah. I like the fact that the Transformers respect the tolls of the city, though.
Well, of course.
Yeah. They're good citizens.
They're good citizens.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons they need those side hustles.
Yeah. They need to have cash for the tolls, at least.
Yes. There's like a crane that knocks girders off a building around Grapple and to make a cage. And then, and of course, Lord Chumley is driving the crane, operating the crane. And then I think this is, I would say, my favorite. Blaster is hanging out on Billboard Row.
Billboard Row, yes.
Every town has a Billboard Row.
Yeah.
And a pair of giant hands from a billboard for Creamy Cream hand lotion reach down and pick him up.
Yeah.
And he struggles, and it seemed like the perfect plan. Just that, the hands are going to grab him and he'll be caught, right? But he struggles and breaks free and transforms into his boombox form as he's flying through the air, and lands conveniently in Lord Chumley's lap in a cab that's just passing by.
Right.
Now, how did Lord Chumley plan all of that? He knows every contingency. He has a contingency for every situation.
I mean, one thing maybe you could say is that he's been building up to this, and he's been laying the groundwork for this for months.
Yeah.
Even then, it doesn't make much sense, but
no.
It's a little bit better than thinking he's coming up with all this in the spot. So maybe he studied the Transformers' tendencies for months, and so he's got these plans for individual Transformers, how best to capture them, and then it pretty much goes to plan, and they react the way he predicts they would and fall into his traps.
Okay. I can almost accept
I can't believe I'm defending this.
I kind of accept, because he has been, we do know he's been thinking about it.
Yeah.
Least. And maybe the sub was just to stir the pot, or the plane was more about stirring the pot than anything else.
Yeah.
And you think he would have wanted to catch a Transformer plane, because it's a plane and a robot.
Maybe it's the cachet, I guess, of just being a Soviet plane.
Yeah.
Is more impressive to him, or something he didn't have yet.
Right. So, okay, I still have a few questions. Like, why did he assume that Blaster would go to, or any of them would go to Billboard Row? Because that trap seems like it could be for any, but it does seem designed for a Transformer who's going to, again, go from being robot sized to something smaller.
Good point. Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, it would almost make more sense, like, if playing off the vanity thing, if he was giving out samples of creamy cream lotion or something like that.
But it wasn't even the Vane Transformer. It was Blaster.
Oh, that's right. Well, in that case, I got nothing.
Robots don't need hand lotion. They don't have dry skin. I mean, maybe, again, lubricant or something, but...
yeah, that's right. It was Blaster. It was in tracks that,
yeah,
I don't know. I guess, like you said, every city, every large town has a Billboard Row, and pretty much sooner or later, all of us, despite our best efforts, wind up in Billboard Row one time or another.
Okay. Maybe if we watched the whole season, we would have seen them laying the groundwork.
Buzz Dixon laid the groundwork all season for this establishing Billboard Row.
Yes.
I'm a little curious about Billboard Road now.
Maybe that particular city, they in order to keep the clutter of billboards away, they've just designated an area. This is Billboard area. Billboard Row.
That's right.
Everybody can have billboards here.
Yeah.
The interstate is right there.
Yeah.
So everybody sees it, but you're not inundated with it wherever you go.
It was very controversial at the time.
Yes.
But ultimately, people lived with it, and ultimately it paved the way for successful kind of cleanup of the area, and
I think
made things smoother.
There was concern that advertisers would just take liberties, and if you give them that much space, they're just going to put billboards all the way up to the sky.
Yeah.
They're never going to get clear of their habit of over-advertising.
Yeah.
But, it did work out. They realized, well, if you have too many billboards, and nobody sees any billboards.
Yeah.
So
everybody has to work together.
Yeah.
Even in Billboard Row.
That's a famous Bob Dylan song.
Yeah.
Billboard Row.
Billboard Row.
Yeah. And then they set up building on fire.
Yeah, kind of an elaborate fire trap.
Inferno, who's a fire truck. That's like a very sensible Transformer to have made.
Yeah.
Like as a toy.
Right.
Kids love fire trucks. They love robots. So he goes in and he's going to save this kid, but it turns out to be like a mannequin, and then they catch him. And there's another one. I'm not sure what, like Optimus Prime, clearly he knows people are getting captured, and he says, return to headquarters. And then this one Transformer briefly gets stuck on train tracks, and Lord Chumley's driving a train at him, and he does manage, he transforms and escapes from that. Another one whose name is Huffer also escapes. Huffer.
Yes. It's interesting.
Yeah. He drives the toxic waste truck. Anyway.
Voiced by Hank Azaria.
And then at headquarters, Cosmos, who I think he's like a flying saucer.
Yeah, I didn't know what Cosmos deal was.
Yeah. I do remember that toy now. Like the toy,
Really?
It was one of the little ones.
Okay.
So I think he's I don't know. He seems like he does, is saucer shaped and flies. So let's say he's a flying saucer.
Okay. I'll go along with that. Yeah.
So he calls in and he's flying over Lord Chumley's land. Again, we don't know where that is, but and he sees all the captured Autobots are being tortured in various ways, made to keep running or transforming and exhaust themselves.
Yeah, it's
an ugly scene.
Very diabolical.
And then Lord Chumley breaks into the transmission to challenge Optimus Prime, that if he comes and faces off with him, he'll free them. And of course, Prime, being the hero, is going to accept that. But he does take time to pull a switch on their computer called the feedback overload lever that somehow melts Lord Chumley's communication device.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing he's got there.
But it does fit in with our sub-theme this season of buttons and levers labeled. Very specifically labeled.
Yes.
So Prime says he'll go on his own. We do get a brief Megatron appearance.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite parts of the episode because it's true.
Which is?
Starscream, well, Megatron is expressing some consternation over what's going on. I think he just doesn't like it because he's not involved in it, and he's annoyed.
But he does it, but also admires the skill.
But Starscream points out to him that Chumley's accomplished more in 2 days than he has in what does he say, like
2 years.
In 2 years, yeah. It's like, he's not wrong.
He's not, and Megatron rewards his truth-telling with a good kick in the butt or punch in the face.
Yeah.
Shoots him. He does something.
Yeah, he smacks him, I think. And, the truth hurts sometimes. Yes.
But he does send Astro Train and another triple changer, the tank.
Yes.
Blitzwing. He sends them to go kind of see what's going on and maybe stop it. So, meanwhile, Prime has arrived at this where Lord Chumley has created a well-researched version of Cybertron, like a maze, but it's meant to represent Cybertron. And somewhere in there, the other Autobots are waiting if Optimus Prime can get through it.
Yeah.
And while he's telling him this over a microphone, so Lord Chumley he does all his work. On the other hand, he knows not to get too close to his prey.
Yeah.
And but like just a dragon attacks Optimus Prime.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's like, he's like there, just like right behind him, waiting. And Optimus Prime doesn't notice him at all. Kind of wish he'd done a double take.
Yeah.
But, and they fight and Optimus Prime beats him. And then Lord Chumley uses a laser net.
Yeah, some kind of like energy or, laser net.
Yeah, and Optimus Prime manages he grabs a chain that has a hook on the end of it and flings it, and it connects to power lines, and that short circuits everything. So he gets out of there. The triple changers arrive. Then there's like a woman chained to like an anvil or something.
Yes, some woman in peril randomly.
Yeah. And Prime decides not to help her.
Yeah.
And also, Dinsmore says to Lord Chumley, that's not quite cricket, is it? And Lord Chumley says, all fair's in love and big game hunting. And he's also angry that he got outsmarted by a lorry.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought Dinsmore's concern was a little misplaced at this point. I thought that was odd. Right. Why was that, of all things, going over the line?
He's finally, after 200 years of serving this guy.
They never did anything like that in the Boer War, I can tell you that.
That's right. Back during Oliver Cromwell's days.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Would not let it happen, no.
Yeah. Now, Optimus Prime is smart. He doesn't help the woman, and it turns out she was a hologram. And Blitzwing gets trapped in some sort of slime or, I don't know, something. And Optimus Prime delivers another great line. He says a booby trap that actually captures boobies.
Yeah.
So if you need an audio soundbite of Optimus Prime just saying boobies,
there you go.
This is
the episode. Right. He seems a little proud of that one too. He does. Even despite everything that's going on, he can chuckle a little bit at that one.
And then there's like a scorpion robot.
Yeah.
That has a TV in it, so Lord Chumley's face is in it. Like that's going to attack Prime, and he calls Lord Chumley a pain in the diode.
Yeah.
And then I think they're fighting, and Astro Train shoots Optimus Prime in the back. Also not quite cricket.
No.
And Lord Chumley's not happy about that because it was his.
Yeah, it was his prize.
Yeah. So he traps Astro Train and Blitzwing, and chains them to a wall.
That was kind of an interesting element, by the way. I kind of like that Chumley didn't naturally align, or I mean, he just saw them pretty much the same as everything else.
Yeah.
It was good character consistency by Chumley.
Yes. He's just about him.
Yeah.
And Bumblebee manages to send some sort of message to Optimus Prime, who wakes up from his injury and gets a homing signal. So he's able to find them. He does have to fight a spider robot and go through some sort of spinning tunnel thing.
I believe co-writing this episode with Buzz Dixon was John Peters.
I was thinking of Jeffrey Scott, but yes, John Peters.
This is the only episode he would write of Transformers, and it had to be under one condition.
giant spider. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Optimus Prime smashes a tunnel, and Lord Chumley frees the Decepticons to thinking they'll help him.
Yeah.
And instead they chase him.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That was good. I think that was consistent with them, too.
Yeah, they say, don't trust Decepticons.
Yeah. And the Autobots, who are now all free, chase them off, and then they deliver the Lord Chumley tied to the jet back to the Russians.
It was an interesting move.
Yeah.
I guess the Russians are the ones that get to deal with him.
Yeah, I mean, he did.
I'm sure he'll get a fair trial and,
yes.
due process.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure, he was already planning for that, though. And he's got, he knows what cell he'll be in Siberia.
That's right.
Exactly how to escape it. Dinsmore is, I'm sure, on his way there now.
I was going to say, do we know where Dinsmore is? Because I didn't see him in captivity at the end.
No. He got away.
Yeah.
To live another century or two.
Yeah. Maybe Dinsmore will be the next one to turn up down the line. Hector Ramirez and Dinsmore will make another appearance.
Yeah. Maybe Dinsmore will become Hector Ramirez's butler.
Now that would be an interesting twist.
Yes.
I would have settled for just Dinsmore being like the Autobots' butler.
Well, that would be cool.
And kind of forced to just put up with them. And
yeah.
Optimus Prime would be the one that would insist on, well, everybody can be redeemed, and they'd train him, to
clean up oil stains.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they,
I guess they don't really need a butler, but
no.
Maybe it would be a way that they could rehabilitate him and keep him under their watchful eyes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're slobs.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to clean up.
Yeah. Bolts flying around all over the place. And
wash them.
Yeah.
That's something.
They could find it.
They would find work for him.
You would think for an immortal.
Yes.
Who has all the capabilities, who can drive, fight, design things.
Yeah.
And has done a lot of the manual labor over the last couple hundred years.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a role for him somewhere in the Autobots organization. If not, the Decepticons would probably snap him up very quickly.
Because they would use a butler even if they didn't need it.
Yeah, Megatron at least would.
Just to push someone around.
Or Starscream would, yes.
Oh yeah, he's dying to have a butler.
I could see Starscream having a butler and Megatron getting all snippy about it.
Yeah.
Like, why do you get a butler? He would did
your butler get... I can't do a Megatron voice, but yeah.
So that's prime target.
Yeah.
A little geopolitical stuff. Some big game, very little geopolitical stuff.
Yes.
But the international tensions are, subside. The special session they had at the UN at one point, I guess that didn't really lead to anything. And I do want to say something here. Is we haven't talked a lot about it, but Optimus Prime really is a cool character.
He is.
Yeah. I mean, voice actor Peter Cullen kind of has like a little John Wayne swagger.
Yeah.
But he's this friendly, patriarchal type, and he really seems like a kind of a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's the big hero. In this one, I think he keeps marching forward, and Chumley's amazed that he's surviving all this.
Yeah.
But he has certain principles. He has a moral code. He doesn't give up. He goes out to get his friends when they're in trouble. So, props to Optimus Prime. And he had the good sense not to get involved in that breakdancing episode.
That's right.
So you got to give him credit for that, too.
He didn't deal with that street level stuff.
No.
But, I like that he's the leader and actually gets to be heroic rather than just sort of the leader.
Yeah.
So, he's not like the lieutenant on a cop show.
No.
He's very active.
Yeah.
Now, but he's good at delegating.
He is.
He trusts, like Jazz is his right-hand man. He trusts him with planning and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, he knows what skills all the Transformers have. And,
he sends a lot of people out on scout missions and stuff like that. But you have to give him credit because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't ask anybody to do anything that he wouldn't do. And when, rubber meets the road and it's time to go out and do stuff, he's in the thick of it. And I respect him for that. Even though you could argue that it would make more sense for him to hang back more often because he's so valuable to the Autobots.
Right. But he's going to get right in it. And if Megatron's there, he's going to find Megatron.
Yeah.
Because some of it seems a little personal, but, they are the two big guns, so to speak.
They are. They're destined to have that battle.
Yeah.
For all of eternity, or at least 4 million years or so.
Right. Until the movie.
Yeah. 4 million in 2 years.
Yes. yeah, I definitely enjoyed Optimus Prime, and some of these other characters are fun.
Yeah, I don't need to watch a whole lot of Transformers. I've watched some, some other ones, and there's some episodes we picked two of kind of the more amusing ones, but there's some that actually kind of impressed me with some more adult themes. That like there's one, I don't know if you've seen this one, where I was just looking through the episode descriptions and picking a few to watch. In addition, there's one where some Decepticons, Starscream, they go to another planet and they're worshipped as gods, and they portray themselves as gods.
Yeah.
And you kind of get into this thing about false mythology, and all this. And I think one thing, despite these two episodes, that I've noticed is, I think overall the cartoon, even apart from the movie, is a little bit more violent than some of the other cartoons. And they might not say things like "I'm going to kill you," but they talk about like perishing, and every now and then they slip in like pretty serious words. They do indicate that there's stakes of some kind, even though robots can be rebuilt, and they can and are rebuilt. But it seems to me a little bit more serious than some of the other. Like I think He-Man, for example. I think Transformers is a little bit more, for lack of a better word, adult than He-Man, for sure.
Yeah, I could see that.
And that reminds me of something that I read, which I didn't know this. Apparently, one source says that they actually filmed moral segments for the Transformers, but they never aired.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if some of these it turned up as an extra somewhere, but originally the idea was that, like the Filmation shows, they would actually have a moral segment where they would directly tell you something. And watching some of the episodes I've seen, I don't see that anything is built around, so maybe they had to just contrive some other moral thing, but I would like to see those. But
yeah, and they would have had a cool slogan, no doubt.
Yeah,
like the G.I. Joe one.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I was thinking, did they? And obviously they did. Maybe just Optimus Prime's behavior was enough.
Yeah, it's enough. Oh, but you know what Transformers does have, and one thing I want to say, like one thing about the Transformers that I think is one of the best things of its kind in television history. The bumpers.
Oh, yeah.
The Transformers may have the best bumpers in television history. I looked up the guy's name, Victor Caroli, the narrator. He's also an actor. These are awesome. Am I right on this?
They're definitely awesome, yeah.
Like, we will return to the Transformers after these messages.
Right. And there's a Transformer transforming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we now return to the Transformers.
Right.
It sounds kind of like vaguely sinister.
Yes. I'm glad they kept them in these streaming versions.
Yes, that a really a nice surprise, and to me one of the coolest parts of the show.
Yeah, and the theme song. I'm not wild about the season 2 version of the theme song.
No, season 1 was definitely superior.
There's it's rhythmically, I think, more robotic. Yeah. Or something. There's something.
Yeah,
off about
I think that's a good way of putting it. It seems like they intentionally tried to make it more robotic.
Yeah, and then the movie in the end credits has like a super duper rockin', almost metal version of it.
Boy, I don't remember
by
that.
the band Lion.
Oh.
Which I assume is different than White Lion or Glass Tiger. And it goes on. It has more words, and it's the whole end credits.
Wow.
And it's a little much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that first season 1 is definitely.
Yeah, they were fine. They didn't need to tinker with it.
Yeah, but it lays it out, and that. I never really thought about that, but rewatching that Toys That Made Us, and they talked a few times about the slogan, the more than meets the eye, robots in disguise. How perfect that is.
Yeah.
It tells you everything you need to know, really.
Yeah.
If you're a kid, at least.
Right.
Oh, it's a robot, but it's in disguise.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, one of the big selling points, that transforming and, like, the secrecy and kind of that, like I kind of take that for stride now. I don't even like really think about it so much. It's just like, oh, this is what they do, but they're still the same robot. Like that part of it just doesn't really stand out to me much anymore. But
all right, like I do like in the cartoon though that they don't do the thing that so many of these things do and make you wait for all that. You don't have to wait for the big moment where a Transformer transforms.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
they're just like constantly.
They do it regularly.
It's almost all about the robots, and they're just constantly transforming.
I see. Yeah,
in and out of their shapes, and it's a little weird that Optimus Prime has to command them to transform sometimes.
Right.
But there's no. They don't pad it too much with humans.
Yeah.
There's this guy Spike who works with them a lot, and his dad, and Raoul, and things. They're around, but.
And you know what else they don't do, to my recollection, which they could have done, is they don't have one transforming sequence for each Transformer and then spotlight that each time they do it to save money in animation, which is kind of refreshing that they don't do something like that.
Right, like a kind of anime thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which surprising in a way, because it clearly has anime elements to it.
Yeah,
but, or at least was animated overseas.
Good for them for doing that.
This is a question I thought of, and then and we can wrap this up. If you were a robot and could transform into some object or vehicle or something, what do you think?
What do I think I would transform into?
Yeah, what would you want to transform into?
I don't know. Maybe I would transform into like a food truck and, just just have a nice little side living and, go to construction sites and feed hypnotized workmen in the course of their day and just do something, give back to the community a little bit.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be necessarily combat ready.
Yeah.
Unless I, would shoot hot dogs at people or something like that. But
right.
I think I'd have a pretty good life that way.
Yeah.
How about you?
I was thinking maybe a musical instrument, but I don't like the idea of like someone picking me up, playing me.
Yeah, like if you transform into a gun and somebody shoots you, that's one thing. But if you're like a woodwind instrument or something like that, that's a little sketchy.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What about like a cool guitar or something like that?
Well, that was my thought, like a guitar, but then someone would, play me.
What about like a player piano? Something
player piano, that might be. Yeah.
You could pull that off, I think.
Player piano in like a 1980s pizza parlor.
Oh, the things you'd see in a 1980s pizza parlor. That would be quite a life.
Yeah. And turn into a robot when you needed to.
Yeah, I like that. I think that sounds good.
Jukebox would fit in that kind of, but I think player piano is cooler.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because jukebox people are pushing buttons on
all the time.
Yeah.
Player piano, hopefully people just leave you alone.
Yeah. Player piano, maybe, probably less variety in the songs you're playing.
Right.
So you might get sick of that. But you're a robot, so you could change the role.
Yeah.
When you're not working.
Yeah, hopefully you wouldn't just be doing like ragtime music, all day.
Yes. Jukebox, I feel like there would be a lot of risk of hearing things you don't like. Over and over and over.
Yeah, you might have to do what's popular, not necessarily what you like.
Yeah, so because player piano, people aren't really paying attention to what the song is.
Yes.
Like, would you be disappointed if a player piano played a song it had written itself instead of one that like Scott Joplin had written or Stephen Foster?
Yeah. And now for an original, something I cooked up. People start filing out.
Right. Hello, my baby. That's the Freebird of player piano crowds. It's the only song like that I can think of right now.
Hello, my baby. Yes.
So, Transformers, and we'll be transforming into Season 8 soon-ish.
Yeah, look out for that. We've got a lot of things planned for Season 8, and we'll have plenty to keep you occupied until then. And, of course, we will have our tradition after every season, the Batty Awards.
The Batty Awards, yeah. So keep a lookout, an ear out for that, and some fun bonus episodes, and we'll get back to it with Season 8.
Yeah, thanks for a great Season 7, everybody, and we'll see you soon. This episode brought to you by Club Dancetron, now under new management. This episode also brought to you by Actors and Other People for Robots, fighting since 1985 to protect robots from big game hunting. This episode also brought to you by Cybertron Pizza. If you want a pizza that looks like a car, we've got you covered. Cybertron Pizza, more than meets the pie. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.